and welcome to Disclosure Network, New York, a meeting on Sunday, August 5th, 2018. I'm Nick Curto, co-founder and director. dnny is a grassroots organization celebrating our 17th year of providing 2 meetings a month throughout the year in Manhattan. We focus on cutting-edge UFO, ET issues, paranormal phenomenon, and related subjects. Our members do intense investigative research into these various topics and share that information with the group at our meetings and on the internet so that more people can partake in what we're discussing. Our motto we had right from the very beginning is, quote, connecting the dots to seek truth, unquote. I'd like to mention that we have available to everyone worldwide what we call dnny News Blast. That's an email service focusing on the various topics of our group. Just visit our website, www.dnny.info, and type in your email address where it's asked for to receive our news blast. Again, it's a free service, and we'll connect you with the topics that we are currently focusing on. We have hundreds of people, literally, all over the world that contribute as well as to listen and look at our emails. Our featured guest today, I am very happy to say, is Alexander Galvez. Alexander, it is so wonderful to have you here to do this interview and to do this program. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Nick.
And just a couple of quick background things. Were you originally born in New York City? Do you have a large family? Just a very brief.
Yes, born and raised New Yorker, so.
All right.
I know Babylon pretty well.
I bet you do.
Yes.
And as far as the topics here, how did you originally start off? Was it just a physical thing of going to the gym and stuff, and then going on to that, or how did all this happen in your life?
You know, I'm not ashamed to say anymore because it's behind me, but I think as the twists of fate have turned out for many of us, I became a heroin addict at a very young age. And,
wow.
And by the time I was 22, I was homeless and eating out of garbage cans and stealing every day. And so, once depending, I guess, on how conscious you are and where you are in terms of the soul, the journey of the soul, I had to either choose to die or live, and I had to, make some serious changes. So.
You bet.
Yeah, so.
Thank God you made the right choice, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow,
yeah.
Wow, that's such a challenge at such an early age.
Yeah.
Was it peer pressure that kind of put you into that?
No, I think it was part of the time. I think more importantly, it's a reflection of the family. I'm not blaming my parents, but I think that's why. I think this organization would appreciate it, but I think there are some forces that are literally like breaking down the family, like designed to break down the family because it's such a powerful institution. And I mean, we are also evolving. It's kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. The family is evolving, and yet, the old institutions have been collapsing, and there's been a lot of war on our institutions, for good or bad. And I just had some. It was just kind of born into a certain type of family that. Certain things were allowed, certain things weren't allowed. And, just like all of us, we all come from different backgrounds. And, you can't say what is it. It could be karma, it could be my soul's journey, it could be a combination of all the things.
Right. So, how did you come out of that? Did you go to a center and?
How did I come out? No, I've been in and out of institutions for the whole thing.
Okay.
With the way they talk about an NA or Narcotics Anonymous or the rooms of recovery is like either end up in an institution, jail or death. And I've been through a couple of them already, and I only had one alternative, so it's like I wasn't going to do that. And I actually thinking back, a couple of things happened which really kind of woke me up. And I knew someday I thought I'd get out of it. I just kind of, I was always involved in spirituality even when I was younger. And I think I just kind of made a deal with the Creator. I said, you get me out of this and I'll serve you the best way I can.
Whoa, boy. In the morning I tried to say, Universal Father, God, whoever you want to call it, make me the instrument of your limitless love.
Yeah.
Just, I'm ready, I'm signed up, I'm ready to go. Just let my life be that. And you're saying very similar things here.
Yeah, in fact,
it's powerful. It's so simple, and yet it's so powerful.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I do. As soon as my eyes open, I say a prayer, which is very, very similar to that. So, God, thank you for this day that I will never receive again. And for that reason, let me be the gift of giving and receiving your abundance, prosperity, health, and wealth. And thank you for this day. As soon as my eyes open, otherwise, usually happens is the opposite. Another day.
Right. Yeah, we've been there too.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, I see you. I mean, I've known you a long time, and I see you as someone who is healthy, who is into helping other people to accomplish health, both mentally and physically. And so, where did that start in your life? Where did you start that path?
I think for me, I was always a giver, but what happens, again, because of the family dynamics, I was naturally inclined to be a giver or like a protector. But what happens is when we grow up in these kinds of models, there's a sense of imbalance, and certain needs aren't met. So we form defenses around that. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And so did you say you were living in the Manhattan at the time? Queens, okay. And was your first step like going to a gym or doing like a physical?
You mean inside of recovery?
Yeah.
No, I think I got a woman pregnant. She was my girlfriend then, and she was my running partner, and we were like Bonnie and Clyde, basically, and stealing and doing and getting drugs and getting high and having sex and everything. And
wow.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I got her pregnant. And one day she said, "I'm having your baby," and I said, "No, you're not." And she said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "No kids. I mean, we have fun and we do drugs and."
There's a lot going on here.
She said, I think it's an opportunity. My daughter said, I'm not going to have another abortion, and I'm going to have this one, and it's going to straighten me out, and that's what I want. And you can be the father, or you can check out another 20 years. And I said,
wow, what a moment in your life. My God.
So anyway, I denied it as much as I can. But, the other part of it, I think, was what I realize now, 25 years later, is... my daughter actually saved my life. And if it was up to me, she wouldn't have been here. And every time I see her, I thank her. I don't say it, but I say it psychically to her that, I understand now at a soul level that she probably saved my life, because once I saw her born into the world, I said, this is I wanted to prove to my father that I could raise a better kid than he could.
Wow. What a motivation.
And I don't know if that has to do with men and fathers, and there's a whole exploration that I've done in men's work, deep cultured men's work around the sacred masculine and holding circles of masculine circles where men really reveal a lot of their pain that they would never put into the world, because we often wear masks in the world.
We certainly do.
Yeah, so that was a deep revelation for me, that I really wanted to prove to him that I could do better than he could.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a good revenge on my father.
It certainly
but
is.
now, I put it all behind me. He's near death now. Now my goal is to give him an honorable death and be with him when he dies, because he did everything he could, and that's all I can. Now I just want to give him that. So
I think that's the right way to go, and that's also another decision that how to handle that. And my personal opinion is you did it right on the money, right? I think you did, because negative energy, as you know, messes us all up, and so we got to steer clear of that. Well, thank you for that amazing, honest story that you just shared with us.
Yeah,
truly. Okay, so you can take it now from here.
Yeah, sure. So because a little bit of my background, that's what kind of led me into, I started going to the gym, getting really healthy. I started exploring. Once I got clean, my daughter was born, I said, I got a way to straighten out, and I got really excited about being a father. And I was on welfare and food stamps and the whole thing, and slowly started detoxing off methadone, stopped shooting coke, and and have start integrating a relationship and a dynamic in terms of building a family, and honoring the relationship. As long as my then partner agreed to be on the same page with me, that we could do the same thing. So we agreed we'd get off drugs. She went back to college because she was actually mandated to go back to college, and I wasn't, because I was able to hustle. I always had a good hustle. I'm from New York, so I got a job off the books, and so I had cash and food stamps, things like that. I don't want to get into the details. Well, it's enough that we could get an apartment, get on Section 8, and raise a daughter, start raising a daughter. So I got clean, and once I did, I started working out. I always loved working out, getting into weights. But once I did that and got pretty healthy and understood, got deeper into the food paradigm and understanding, what's good food, what's bad food, and then getting even deeper into the molecular bioavailability of food, things like that, understanding really what's happening on the planet in terms of how America, they've used foods and distorted foods to work against us, the whole conspiracy route, everything, it's quite, if you're a little more conscious and not afraid and you're courageous enough to deal with the truth, that's what's important. Because most people can't handle the truth, and the thing is, it's scary.
It is scary. I think a lot of people don't want to even open that door that you're mentioning, because when you do open that and start doing the research and investigating, you're seeing things that will really turn your whole world upside down, because the things you thought were true and real and aren't. And there's a lot of BS all over, and just name the category. Look up at the sky and see the chemtrails, or look at the food and see what's really in it, or the water that's the fluoride, and who put it there, and how in the world would they keep it going? And all the rest of that. This is a whole other story, but you've touched on it, and I just wanted to say that.
So once you see all the lines clearly, and you start having the courage to go deeper into the matrix, then you can see that, once I got clean, I wanted to just keep on going. It's like, okay, I got my physical health back. I got to know how to eat right. I detox. It's like, what's next? What's next was to get my mind and emotions, because my nervous system was wrecked from all the trauma from childhood. So, did the traditional routes of therapies, every kind of therapy. You could think of EMDR, NA, group therapies, individual therapies, all kinds of therapies, and kept going, because I knew self-development. In other words, that was the key. Personal achievement and self-development was the key for me to take full responsibility. And once I took, and this is really important today because of what's going on. Often people complain about what's happening with the administrations and the government and everything. And I think what they're missing the point is that it's not about who's in office. It's really about taking full responsibility for our lives. And then there's no way to excuse ourselves to any forces outside of us anymore. See, but that's only if we're willing to be fully adult. If I'm an adult, then I'm fully responsible for everything that shows up in my hologram. Everything, I'm responsible.
We shouldn't be waiting for the heroes, for the men and the women with the white hats to come in. We are the heroes. Exactly. We are the men and the women that should be stepping up to the plate. Yeah. And once you get that, everything changes. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the basis of where we all really want to go.
Yeah, and it's a process. We have to be gentle with ourselves too, because we're still human, and we're still in this world, physical reality, and there's still like a lot of laws that we still have to obey in the physical world, and so I have to just remind myself. So there's also that gentle side of reminding ourselves that we are human and we have to be gentle. But anyway, once I got my emotions somewhat aligned and was able to function greater, and then started actually a business, because I got out of working for other people, making them rich, and once I realized, what's the next step? Working for people, making them rich for 20 years, or starting my own business. So it's, again, another step of being courageous and stepping up to the plate, which is hard. So in 2008, when the government crashed everything, I said, this is the perfect time to build a business. So I came in right at the crash. I said, because if I can make it now, then I can probably make it anywhere. So, but what happened once I built that, then I said, what's next is relationship. I had a lot of trouble relating, and because of my family dynamic, often superimposed my mother on women, things like that, and wanted to get into the deep subconscious part of the brain and things like that. And that's a deep wormhole to go into. But what I found was that after some bad relationships, that and not able to master my sexual energy, I had been very sensitive sexually, and after exploring a little bit about Chinese medicine, I found the Tao, and the Tao. Basically, I wanted to say right now that I'm not an expert by any means, because when we're talking about Tai Chi and Qigong, they're very distinctive practices. They're ancient, and they're deep cultures of practice that, would be started on children, and, we're here in the West, and this is kind of like upside down in the East, almost literally like upside down. Everything they do there is almost like upside down in a sense, or at least back then in the ancient day. So I'm by no means an expert, and if I had my teacher here, she would be critiquing me back and forth. She's amazing.
Kind of proud of me, but okay.
But So what I wanted to master was my sexual energy, because I knew also from being in the church for 10 to 12 years of how they used guilt against us constantly, and how, you know, our sexuality was constantly, you know, used against us in terms of sin and things like that. And I could kind of just see through it, because I knew there was something magical about it. And the Tao was a spiritual practice that intrinsically included your sexual practices inside your spiritual involvement.
Okay.
Which, unlike Christianity, I'm not saying like there are great people in Christianity and church, and I'm not, of course, I want to say right here, I'm not against any other religions. Whatever your path is your path. Of course, I have to say that in terms of, but I found that as a spiritual person, I needed to develop my emotions. Then I needed to develop the next part, was my spiritual body, and also my sexuality. So the Tao allowed me to do both simultaneously, because in the Tao, it's one of the few spiritual practices that intrinsically includes your sexual energy, and your longevity and health is intrinsically included in your spiritual involvement. So.
You have our interest, sir. This is an amazing subject. So, do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Slides?
Yeah, let's go through the slide a little bit. So, now I want to say that this is the first time I'm really doing this with a group. So just be patient with me. This is quite a lengthy presentation. So I'm going to distill it down. And there's my teacher there in the corner. If you see that, Montauk Chia is his name. He's a grandmaster from a 6,000-year-old Taoist lineage. Many of you may know and have heard of him. He's written over 50 books, I think, if not more. And he's just an amazing teacher. I might say that if any of you are interested, for the women, my master teacher, Sharon Smith, teaches exclusively for women and men, actually. And she's a stickler for detail, not as like I am. I got into it for this beautiful form of what I call science, art, and magic all rolled into one. And this work has completely shifted my life, and I'll let you know why. Because now the Western science is correlating what the ancient Taoists knew for thousands and thousands of years. So it's kind of like back from the future almost, right? So let's get started with this. Again, I'm going to skip around a little bit because this is about a 200-page document, but let me just go through this. So, you know, the key to understanding this work is that your sexual energy is one of the pathways to inner alchemy, and like I say, the proven science, magic, and most importantly, an art form. Remember, most martial arts, they consider them an art form because they take years and years to master them. But you can see here, the idea is that in the Tao, we change like the physical energy of sperm and egg into healing, spiritual and to the immaterial, meaning that this practice is so beautiful you can do it either alone. In fact, it's recommended you do it alone before you do it a partner. And I practiced for years on myself. Actually, there's physical practices, literally. But the idea was when they took teenagers, say adolescents in the ancient time, right? When this was part of a culture, so they didn't go to school to learn their ABCs. They learned this, and they would take children, or rather, what I would say adolescents, right? Right when your hair started coming into your body, right, and your pubic hair and your underarm, and your whole physiology changed, they would take you to level 1. So I am only a level 1 practitioner, actually.
Okay.
So I wanted to do
how many levels are there?
In the Tao, there's many. I'll just say many, because there's always the next level, and the next level, and the next level. So I'm only a level 1, so thank you for letting me do this. So I'm just going to present this the best way I can. So remember, this is a self-cultivating practice first, right? So in other words, they take a child or an adolescent of 12, 13 years old, put them into, and the first things they would teach them is how to deal with what? Their emotions and their sexual energy, the very things that were exploding and surging in their bodies, right? These hormones surging through their bodies that create these cascades of emotions.
That makes total sense. Absolutely.
And why do you think now, just to give you some context, a young boy goes out with a semi-automatic weapons and sprays, kills 20 people, and it's no big deal at a McDonald's? As long as it didn't happen to me. Why? When you look at this beautiful art, science, and magic of this, and you see why these kinds of things happen in the West, because it's not girls that are killing people, it's boys who do these kinds of things, and it's because they don't understand this. And it's my feeling that that's why men subconsciously are angry at women. They actually resent women subconsciously because they don't know how to control their sexual energy. And porn, because of the inception of porn in the 80s, we have literally a masculine energy crisis. And it's not me that found that. Remember, I did these practices initially for myself, because I wanted to be the best man I could be. You know, whether I could share it or not, I didn't know if I had that skill set, because there is a skill to leadership, is a whole other skill set, right? And so, developing leadership skills is a whole other thing. But I just wanted to do it on myself and learn to be the best person I could be. But so that's why I've done this for myself. But you can see where I'm going when I see like an energy crisis in men, because it's the women who've been telling me this, not the men. I initially did it for myself, but it's the women who were telling me, go teach men. So that's why I started teaching, because a couple of my friends insisted that I go teach this, and I said, all right, I'll do it.
I'm glad they said that to you, because also when you teach, you also learn. So it goes both ways.
Right. So women age quickest in the Tao through menstruation. They lose the most energy actually at that time, because they're literally losing the code, right? The very essence and code, the code of their life, of life itself. And men lose most energy ejaculating. So that's a really nice place to start. So you're going to see where I'm going with this. I'm not going to get into this too much. You can see, obviously, in alchemizing sexual energy, you're both unionizing the male and the female within yourself first, right? So you have enough balance within yourself. That's why it's a self-cultivating practice, again. And then, as you see in the bottom right, you start sharing with another. I'm going to skip through a couple of these because they're not that and of course, this is just saying that sexual energy, just like any other energy, can be a powerful tool or a very destructive force, right? And so with sexual energy, it's a combination of stimulating, directing, and storing it, right? So in other words, in my experience, instead of having like kind of standard genital kind of sex, it's kind of very genitally oriented, right? It's kind of oink oink, or if you know what it is, it's just kind of oink oink. Mm-hmm. And what I've experienced is like women often are left kind of unmet is the word I like, and unpacked, because men don't know how to control this magnificent energy. And in the Tao, the most beautiful thing is when a man can control his ejaculation, he's able to actually meet a woman much deeper in intimacy, much deeper. Because remember, women are emotionally much smarter than men. They just had to be by nature, and they're sexually much more powerful than men. And I know this is actually the Gay Lesbian Center. And remember, these practices can be done, it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is actually, because there always has to be a masculine and a feminine inside partnership, right? There's always got to be that more masculine role, leadership, and the more receptive role. That can be back and forth.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to say that.
Yeah, so these are, more, guided towards heterosexual, obviously for anatomical reasons, but there are ways to do this, at least as a self-cultivating practice that are practical, and to lead to more spiritual, conscious evolution in the individual themselves. So I'll just keep going here. So as you can see here, men transfer sperm into chi when they don't let it go out, when they don't ejaculate. So in other words, when they learn, now this is the distinction, men can still orgasm all they want. See, I have orgasms all day long, I just don't ejaculate anymore, at all. And most people go like, what do you mean? It's the same thing. Most of my male friends, if they're not in it, I try to teach this to some of my clients that they're open. They go, what are you talking about? Ejaculation, orgasm, the same thing. They certainly are not. Certainly not for a woman, that's a fact. But for a man, they're actually not as well. Most men don't even understand that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, because once that energy doesn't leave the body, it just gets recirculated up into the other hormones and gets recycled, stored into the bones. In other words, you actually direct it with your consciousness where to put that massive surge of life force energy. One of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life. And then again, for a man, for straight couples, a woman is able to surrender more to what she doesn't even understand is available to her most of the time. Do you know most women just have like maybe 3-4 orgasms, unless they're self-pleasuring, that's a different thing. But with a partner, from what I understand and what the research I've seen, is like most women barely experience like a deep orgasms at the cervical level, things like that. Mm-hmm. And they have many, many, many different kinds, and it's just beautiful. And it's learning this that will give more pleasure to people, couples, and more health, because remember, the first goal of this beautiful art and magic is not sexual pleasure. The goal of this is longevity and health first, meaning to alter the aging process. So in other words, if you learn to practice diligently enough on your own, and then if you met with the partner and created a starship with a partner to either what? To make a soul, to bring a soul from the stars into this plane. But if you're not making children, and you exchange that energy, it's literally like a starship. I'll get into it later, but it was like the most incredible experience of my life having this with a partner who understood how to do this work. She had also cultivated a practice. So here's some more information for you. Men is yang, obviously. Gets aroused quickly, but retreats fast. How much most of you know that already. And female belongs to the yin. She is unique in that she's slowly aroused, but she's slow to retreat also. This is kind of in love and intimacy. The yin moves downward through a woman, right? In other words, and men will move the opposite. Men get heated upward, right? So we arouse quickly, we get heated at the genitals, we want to go, right? And for women, it's actually the opposite. Women, they want to know your heart, they want to know your mind before they open up, right? So this is once you start understanding the nature of this, just this alone had me understand, oh my God, that's why guys just get all heated up first and women don't. It's like, this makes total sense because we come from the bottom. We heat up from the bottom.
The dynamics of it, which you're talking about. And if we had this in earlier years.
Can you imagine if we were taught this at 13 years
That's
old?
what I'm saying. It would be such a much more treasured experience because we would have so much more knowledge. And we don't have almost any of this. We're just thrown out there, in the world trying to cope. And it's not easy. This is a roadmap.
Right, Nick. And again, what I'm saying is I'm just giving you my filtered experience of what I know of the very little bit I do know about the Tao and the mysteries of Taoism and what a beautiful form of practice and life to be led this way. It's just incredibly powerful. I'm just moved by it more and more each time I do it. And here are just some graphics in terms of how harnessing energy and how, we move energy, things like that. Some of this is, I'm not going to get into, this is some of the studies that were done on Mantak Chia, revealing, how orgasmic energy, when not genitally centered or employed and moved back into the higher centers of the body, really did work with the brain. Because remember, orgasm, and I want to say this to you now, if you think about this, and we'll go into this a little more in detail, so when we call it orgasmic energy, I'm just going to correlate original force because here in the West, I don't like to call it sex because we have so much mired in either guilt or shame or the opposite. Anything goes, right?
Yeah.
If you go in porn, some of the things I've heard, I've never seen it actually because I just can't be exposed to that. But actually, because of my practice now, I'm not blowing my own horn, but I have to say this. I used to watch porn here and there. I was married, I was watch porn here and there. But I got to tell you, after practicing so long, it's like porn is not even on my radar anymore. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that once you build a vertical bridge to your higher self, because when that orgasmic energy is not spilling out of you, you're building it into the body first and then to your higher bodies, right? Mm-hmm. So this energy goes into your higher self and into your soul self, because the idea of the Tao, and that's why I also want to mention that I love the Tao, is because in the spiritual context of the Tao, unlike, say, something like Hinduism, which has 108,000 gods, I think, if not more. Again, I'm not an expert. Or, say, Christianity that has saints, and you have to have all this there's a certain dogma that's attached to various, or whatever kind of religion. Again, I'm not against religions, but I've found that in the Tao, there's just you and the creation, Tao itself, and that you are part of the wholeness of creation. There is no mediation between you and that force.
Okay.
None at all.
Wow. That just seems infinitely more logical, so simple and so powerful.
And that means we have to be responsible, because there's nothing, I can't blame anybody anymore. So that's the beauty of this, and again, because it intrinsically includes all of the practices that we're going to talk about now, this is Mantak Chia, my master teacher, in the 70s, being tested on how his brain worked, and this is some of the proof that sexual energy revitalizes the brain, increases the brain size, and here's some of the data looking at the norms, the brain of a 36-year-old and the brain of an 86-year-old, and that we can't separate. This is an important statistic here. For women, I want them to really get this. So the lack of female sexual hormones going to the brain to stimulate the activity of the brain after menopause is one of the leading causes of Alzheimer's. Lack of sexual hormones. That doesn't mean sexual energy, though. You can still have that. So, in my view, the more pleasure a woman has, the more her brain is actually more plastic, actually. this is some deep, I'll lead this to you really quick. In the human body, the arousal state creates a new chemistry and a new vibration. Remember, because I just want to mention, right after 2012, we're at the end of an age. It wasn't the end of the world.
Boy, that's
but now we are literally about 8 years old. And we haven't just woken up yet. We're like little 8-year-olds running around. It's like, wow, what's the world like? But what's happening is these institutions that have been steeped in my feeling is the ones who run the institutions are like, what I like to tell people is like, do you eat chicken? And they go, yeah. And I say, basically, they eat us. And they go, what do you mean? It's like, well, this is like a spiral, right? So we're talking about if you go to a chicken farm and you watch chickens, they just cluck and eat and do what chickens do. If you look at Earth, humans just cluck and eat and do what humans do. So if you think, we live so much longer than chickens, well, these beings, I like to think, I'm not saying I'm right, it's just like an observation of mine that certain beings live much older than us, and they basically use Earth as a farm, right? And, they're of different vibrational frequencies. And another reason, again, provable here, why I do the Tao work is because you start storing and raising the vibrational energy of your body and all the other bodies that includes it, your energy body, your physical body, your emotional bodies, all of them, your energetic bodies, we can get into the stellar bridge and the Shushumna, all of it. But this is, to me, some of the proof of that, what happens. Again, I'm not going to get, this is quite lengthy, so we're not going to get entirely into it.
How many years ago were a 55-year-old person was considered an old person, and that wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Now we're talking, say, 80 years old. Is normal, I think, something in there I believe for both men and women. So, and that's not a lot of time has passed. So you can project that another 50, 100 years.
Yeah.
So what you're saying makes total sense, and certainly on other realms and other planets and other galaxies and other civilizations, you could see that they could easily be 400, 500 or more.
Yeah.
So it's not a leap at all. I just think it's logical what you're saying.
Yeah, and again, this is a way, like if we're out of the matrix, in other words, if we're off the farm, or as we could put it more that's palatable to people, it's if you want to get off the grid and out of the farm, basically, right? So a lot of people are pulling out of the grid, off the farm, which just means that they're getting out of the matrix, getting harvested by these forces that are much older, much more educated, much, I don't think they're from Earth myself. We can, you can debate about that another time. But this allows me to play a bigger game. In other words, if I can raise my vibration, if I don't leak my sperm, I can raise my vibration through orgasmic energy and get in communion with my higher self and those higher intelligences to then create the gift that our soul. See, people think it's like we're here and then we die, we go back to your soul. I think it's the other way around. We're born and it's like a soul porn. Your soul is literally crying to hear, what you came here to do uniquely, instead of being part of the farm. That's why most people are on drugs now. They feel disconnected. I'm going to New York and I get on the subway. It's like, I look at people. It's like, oh my God. It's like we're living with it like, and it's like, okay, I'm just being judgmental, Galvez. Don't be judgmental, Galvez. Come on. But it's I feel I'm an intuitive empath. That probably also why I got into drugs. So I just feel people's like disconnect. It's not even that they're in pain. They don't get in touch with their will anymore, or they're just caught in the economic situations of our life, because again, that's well designed into the farm, right? To just make it enough where you can get out of the farm financially. The financial freedom is real. People can do that, and it's very real. But most of us kind of live in this kind of, day-to-day existence.
Semi-slavery as far as economic goes, right? Yeah. You're like, oh my God, can I do the rent? Can I? Something came up, a medical, a $2,000, or how about $20,000, 3 days in a hospital? Yeah. And you're thinking, now what? So this goes on all the time.
Yeah, and it's to keep us out of that vibration of victim mentality, right, and blaming others, right? But because this still is the greatest country in the world, I think, and you see, you can literally turn your life around within a year and become, financially free. I believe that. I've seen it with many friends of mine, but I see that the free will is intrinsically involved in that. So again, here is just some information about men's orgasm. And from the Taoist point of view, men increase their orgasmic energy through controlling ejaculation by drawing the orgasmic energy up their brain. Because remember, orgasm really happens in the brain, actually. So we're talking about good sex is good brain health.
That's true.
When somebody has an orgasm, what do? Their eyes, first they say, "Oh God," so so that means
whether they're
it's
atheists
beautiful
or not,
right?
Yeah.
And then their eyes usually roll up in their heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking about like the provable mechanism of DNA and how orgasmic force, it literally helps to regenerate cellular structure in DNA. There's some information about transcription of genetic codes, narrowing, and how the Tao, they call it cupping, but knew how sexual energy or self, what they call self-intercourse, because remember, you wanted to master this on yourself first. Remember, I'm a first level Tao practitioner, and the first level is mastering emotional energy and your sexual energy. That's number one. That's what blew my mind about this. It's like, wow, the first thing I get to learn is how to manage my sexual energy. This is awesome. And here's the provable science, all here. This is all medically now. The West is finally owning this, and it's much deeper than that. It goes into the I Ching, into the DNA structure. This is a great book. I recommend DNA and the I Ching, which all this can be almost provable now.
It's amazing to me that Western medicine has taken so much time to catch up to this.
I don't think so, Nick. I think it's planned that way. It's planned. There are forces who don't want this revealed, and it's still a free will universe. So no one's to blame. It's just about awakening to what's really available to us. So the second brain, right? So in China, they recognize that your gut is really a lower brain, right? Or when a woman has an intuition, I listen, because when when my woman used to say something, I said, I wanted to come from my head, and she came from down below, and she was, I could say, almost 99% right. So we start training the dantian, what we call the dantian, the lower brain. And my feeling is once you start learning these practices, you go from an egocentric kind of logic, left brain personality, uploaded brain personality to start, dropping into your heart more and your guts. My feeling is the best warriors of the ancient times, the most magnificent strategists of the ancient world, they lived from their guts and balls. They literally, the greatest kings, the greatest emperors or queens of those ages, they lived from the guts and their sexual energy, and then the brain and the logic was more of a servant to that, to their heart and their guts than anything else. That's my feeling. I kind of almost saw it as a channel download. By the way, I want to save about half an hour for questions. I did want to do a little practice, Nick, with people to give a sense of what the Tao, like an exercise we could do together.
Sure, we could do that.
So we're at 45 minutes.
I would just say that if you have any questions and you're going to call upon them to raise their hand.
Sure.
You need to keep your voice very high up, volume-wise, not your normal talking voice, because the microphone is there, and it's very sensitive, but we want to hear you. So just to know that.
Am I moving too quickly, people? Or
no, you're good. You're good. Okay. No, this is great. We have 45 minutes.
Okay, good. So this is just again more of the provable science that the Tao understood. Right. This is a beautiful PDF that I like to share with people. Wow. Here's another book we recommend to pick up and on. But I think a lot of it, particularly the women and the men, you understand about gut instinct. But this is just the provable science saying when you have a gut instinct that it's literally a second brain, like in terms of it's believed to be part of the vagus nerve now, and some of the new organs they're discovering. But they just discovered a new organ. I forget what they called it now, but it was a plexus of nerves, I think, around the gut. Yeah.
We'll wait until you're ready to do a Q&A. How's that?
Okay, sure.
We'll do it like a section of just that.
Sure.
So hold your questions right now until we get a section for that.
Okay, so again, this is just some of the science and how the Tao practice teaches organs to literally remember. In the Tao uses a lot of, Master Chia likes to laugh a lot. We kind of do these forced laughs because because it's actually, there's some science around that laughing actually increases, right here, so that laughing activates the diaphragm, deep breathing, it also activates the aorta. This is interesting to know, right? Activates the aorta,
so much tension. Laughter.
Yeah. So our teacher would just we'd start have to laugh. It's like, oh my God, I got nothing funny about it. It's like, and he'd start going,
just contagious laughter.
And he starts laughing, and it just changes immediately. Your whole physiology immediately changes.
Absolutely true.
And this was literally part of a practice.
I was aware of an experiment, and it was just someone who just did that, and then it caught on, and before you knew it, the whole room, it was uproarious, and there was no joke there. It was just simply the act, like you're saying, of just giving it up and just laughing.
It's contagious, right?
It absolutely is.
Again,
Which is joy. Joy is contagious,
yeah,
right? Wouldn't you say that?
Right. And these are what the higher emotions we want to keep most of the time, you know. And this is choice. And here's the deep science behind all of this. Okay. This is an important piece of the Tao work that we always integrate into our practice. I'm going to practice with you, so it's good. So I'd like you to just put their tongue on the upper palate, right behind their teeth.
Okay.
And I actually do this all the time, all day long when I'm not talking. I keep my tongue on the roof of my palate. Why? Because in the Tao, there's what we call the microcosmic orbit. It's an energetic circuit that we close literally a loop. Like when you keep your tongue on the roof of your palate and actually close your women might know this as the Kegel muscles, right? When you give birth, right? The muscles of the urogenital diaphragm, right? So in other words, those muscles, if you don't know what the urogenital diaphragm is, the muscles that you would use if you had to like have them go to the bathroom really bad and you couldn't, those muscles that are holding everything back. So by doing that urogenital contraction and having your tongue at the roof of the palate, I'll do this most of the time during my day now because I'm so subtly sensitive to this now that I notice that when my tongue and my perineum are open, I literally am in my head. I go back to ego, like personality and all my story, my past, and the minute I clean and close the circuit, I'm super present. My posture changes because the energy is being contained in the circuit. So there's no leakage. So that, you know, a lot of the masters would say that there's literally a leakage point between A and B. A and B meaning, well, we're all adults here. Your asshole and your genitals. That, what they call the $1 million point, is a critical point of energy leakage in the Tao. So that if you could learn to close that floor, that urogenital floor, that you could actually, and keep the tongue on the roof of the palate, you could keep the circulation of this beautiful energy going back and forth, from back to front, from governing channel to functional channel, from back to front, from back to front. And then you can start harnessing it and then directing it to certain things. Consciously using that energy to direct it to certain places. Okay. This is just a little more, this is more some of the complex. Remember, this is a very complex, deep science. Of course, we're always tapping into nature. I always recommend doing these exercises on the earth with your bare feet, obviously, for obvious reasons, and I'm sure all of you know that, obviously for the electromagnetic resonance of the earth. Often in the Tao, we use spiraling motion. I noticed when my teacher would sit in meditation, we never lie back. We'd always sit at the edge of our desk, and we'll do that in a little bit. And he would just rock a little bit. And the reason why he actually wasn't rocking, he was tapping into the spiraling nature of everything in the universe. In other words, because we live in a fractal universe, which is being proven now, I like to recommend the work of, does anybody know Dan Winter's work on YouTube? Dan Winter, the extraterrestrial origin of DNA on our planet. Dan is great because he's actually uncovered some of his own work on Planck and hydrogen and how basically what Einstein missed was that fractality and golden mean ratio is the solution to almost every problem in our world right now. Like fractal economics, fractal sciences, everything spirals by nature. There's a sequential pattern to that that's provable in science so that ascension is scientifically provable now. It's not something where I'm talking about, we can debate about the aliens here and who came there and what did that and your religious views and mine. Like literally the ascension process is mathematically and scientifically provable. It's not
Alexander, I would like very much, maybe after this tonight, if you will just email me websites that
Sure.
we could access that. This sounds very important.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it is. And then I could put this out to everybody who's listening,
Sure.
besides this, people in this room, because that just sounds like something we want to follow.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Sure.
you for that. I never heard of that.
So again, this is, just nature proving, in other words, we're just, because, again, here's the proof that, we don't need mediation between you and creation and everything that you are and to manifest everything that you are, everything. Not part of you, not some of you, not your story and your past, but the possibility that you are in the future and, through this beautiful work and some other tools, of course, I use this. We tap into the very forces of nature. This is about turning the wheel. This is a little deeper. I'm not going to get into all of this. You know what I think is a good time, Nick, that we do a little bit of a practice? So how much time have we?
We've got about a good half hour.
Okay, half hour. So let's do a 15-minute practice, and then about 15 minutes of questions.
Sure,
Is that good?
sure. That would be terrific.
Now, look, what you're seeing here is like we generally start with spiraling nature. Does anybody have any medical issues I need to know about?
Like what? What kind of?
Anything? Any medical issues?
Joints or...
Yeah, orthopedic medications.
I had stroke.
Okay.
Anybody else have
Okay.
anything you want to identify?
Yeah, I broke my elbow a month ago, but it's doing okay.
Okay, remember, you don't have anything. It's just like, just tell me if there's any circumstances, but you don't own it necessarily. It's not who you are.
Well, a pretty healthy bunch here, I guess, huh?
Yeah, but otherwise, nobody, any medications, anything like that?
I'm on Exeltro, which is a irregular heart, but I'm on that.
Okay, this is not anything that would cause any problems. What I'd like to do, let me just sequence this a little deeper. So we're going to start with this movement here. I think this would be a beautiful movement to start. In the Tao, there's some basic morning exercises that we do, and this is something I wanted to share with you because we could do these. You could do these every morning. See, these get very complex later, breathing through the coccyx bone, more proof of science. So I think at this point, let's just do some practical exercises. Here's a beautiful genital practice. This is what I do. Here's an example of the male practices, like by pulling my stomach deep into the cavity of my diaphragm and then literally pulling my lingam in different directions, extending the tongue, because in Chinese medicine, the lingam and the tongue are connected actually, in terms of tendons and ligaments. This is the beautiful deep science of Chinese medicine, right? So this is all provable. And for women, they use jade egg exercise to strengthen the urogenital wall and to straighten their uteral muscles, right, for birth-giving reasons and for pleasurable reasons also. So
Should we take our shoes off? I know some of us.
No, not necessary.
Not necessary. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
But if you want to, you can.
So let's do this. If everybody's in a comfortable position,
Yep.
Everybody good? Okay, I want you to keep your both feet flat on the floor. I'd like you to sit away from the back of your seats. In other words, have an erect posture. And let's start with. Can everybody stand? Are you
Sure.
Okay, let's stand up. Let's start with shaking. We're going to shake. In the Tao, we shake a lot. So I want you to bring your hands by your head, and we shake the three cauldrons. The three cauldrons meaning, in China we don't have 7 chakras or more. We have 3 cauldrons, like the cauldrons of the mind and the heart, and then the lower dantian. Generally, these are the general areas. So let's shake out our head near the head area, and just shake out anything you're overly analyzing, overly thinking, anything you've been stressing in your mind about. You can make some sound, bend your knees, shake through your heels. Just let it go. So shake out anything you analyze, planning, overthinking. Shake that out. Just let it go. And now let's shake to the middle quadrant, which is near the heart. Watch your step now. Let's take and empty our hearts of anything we're holding on to, any resentments, any hurts we've had. Just intend that, right? Take a deep breath and just let go of anything you've been holding in your heart against others, family members, lovers, ex-lovers, things of that nature. Shake it out. Good. And now the lower center near your genitals and your stomach area, anything you've been over-stomaching. And you can even intend any trauma that we've need to let go of. It's just an intention. In the Tao, right, energy goes where the mind goes. It's very powerful. When I used to do these exercises, I used to say, just think of this. And it's like, I'm from New York, man. Just think of that, and that happens. And you say, just do it. Right. Just intend your energy. So we're shaking out the lower quadrant. So just really see that energy being drained and out of the body, releasing that energy. Okay. Now I want you to have your feet about shoulder width apart. I'd like you to bend your knees. Does anyone have any martial arts training, Tao training?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, good. Yeah. You probably could correct me. Please do.
Oh, no,
I mean, please do. No, please do, Karen. I appreciate it. Because I'm not an expert. I really am. I'd like you to do. We're going to do a type of what we call the tree pose, which is a fundamental pose. And of course, I'm just going to give you a real distilled down version of it. So I'd just like you to bend your knees slightly. What I'd like you to do is bring your arms like you're hugging a tree. Drop your elbows a little bit below your fingers, and almost open your fingers kind of like the branches of a tree. Yeah. Open them wide, almost like a fan. Good. Watch. I'm sorry, your name? Lorraine, right. Yeah, you can watch Lorraine too because she has practice.
Oh, wow.
That's deep, but
really?
Yeah, that's pretty deep. You don't have to, for most, depending on your orthopedic, if you have the orthopedic issues, throw your tailbone out a little bit. Right? You're on a saddle of a horse. Like, it looks like you're sitting on a horse. All right, good. You should be pretty comfortable. And you want to think of almost like your muscles hanging off, just your muscles are really relaxed. Now, we're going to use that pose. This is a general kind of standing meditation pose. And they would have me hold this for about half an hour. Actually 40 minutes you have to hold this position.
Wow.
Not forced, like it's nothing. Like you don't feel it, you just hold it and it's not a problem. Before I couldn't do it for 5 minutes. Okay, shake that out a little.
Maybe, yes.
Shake it out.
Pardon?
Remember to breathe, yes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Shake that out. Let's do this now. Let's take, for men, I want them to put their the right hand over their left hand on their navel. For women, do the opposite, right hand over the left. Let's spiral outward just 18 times. So you're spiraling from the inner to the outer, spiraling outward, 2. So big circles. We're warming up that central cauldron, the gut, where everything comes from, where all food is transferred into energy, where birth comes from, where life comes from. Go at your own pace. So remember, spiraling outwards 18 times. Larger and larger. You can check out Lorraine.
Continue to breathe.
Breathing is good.
And when you're done, I just want you to reverse your hands. So for men, right over left, for people right. And we're going to spiral inward. Let's just do 18 this time. So it's from the outward spiral to back to the deep into the center. Now what I'm going to do, quick, is do like a condensed version of what we call the 6 healing sounds and the inner smile. The very first things that we had taught. Okay, when you're done, come back to center. And just sit there, close your eyes and just feel your center. Keep your hands on your gut. Feel that centering energy. Follow your breath. Tongue on roof of palate, that's really important. Start keeping your tongue on the roof of your palate and see if you sense any kind of difference. Now, let's just wake up. One other point, I want to wake up the coccyx bone. That's in the Tao, they believe that in the tailbone, we store actually new stem cells. So, I'm just kind of tapping the back of my tailbone. Can somebody keep time for me, 15 minutes, and give me like a 5-minute breakdown? Can I have a timekeeper?
Al, you do that?
What time are we done? 3:30?
We could go a little bit more than that.
Okay, give me an exact time.
Say 20 of. How's
Okay, so
that?
3:40.
Would that be good?
Yeah, please
Okay.
give me 5-minute warnings here. I want to just make sure we're all
Sure.
going to take questions.
Can you turn around and show us where you're
Yeah, sure. This is what I'm doing here.
You want that for exercises or
I'm just
ready
great.
to
Into the
questions
spine.
too?
Right on the tailbone. You should feel good.
Alexander, for questions and answers, do you want to start that at half past?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll signal that.
Or like 25 after.
25 after? Okay, we got it.
Okay, good. Now take a
You'll
deep breath with me. Keep the knees bent, tongue on roof of the palate. Tongue on roof of the palate is very important. Knees bent. Take a deep breath. We're going to bring our palms upward, and then right through the center of your body, as if you're coming down the center. Exhale with an S sound. Inhale, tongue on roof of palate. Palms up. Bend the knees, tongue on roof of palate. Inhale. Hold it. And then down the center. Gentle. One more, palms up. Bend the knees, tongue on roof of palate. Inhale. S sound. Now, let's do 6 healing sound. You may give yourself a little room, like about arm's length. So I'll first go through the inner smile. The inner smile, I'll shut that off for a second. I'm going to close that up. Yeah. You can turn on the light if you'd like. Or it's the projector. I got you.
Want to do that?
If it doesn't fall, then it'll fall.
Yeah, maybe that. Better?
All right, that better?
Good,
Okay,
yeah.
I don't like the lights. I'm so that's like the worst. Actually, artificial light is the worst thing for you.
Lower that thing a little bit?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think this is better. Everybody okay with this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Just want to honor everybody. We'll just watch your step. Make sure everybody's feet are clear. No
Yep.
books, no bags.
Yep. Make sure
Now.
the wire. Make sure.
Yeah, I got it. So we're in that standard tree pose, and we're just going to relax for a moment. Keep the hands to the side, as if you had two little golf balls underneath your armpits, or a little raise. We'll raise the sternum. Inner smile. The inner smiles practice is beautiful. What I do in my practices is an inner smile. When I smile to the organs, I actually then, after each organ, I smile to separately. What we call the five major organs. The six is another sound. I literally smile to the trillions of cells in my body. It's an inner smile, though. It's not an outer smile. But of course, it works both ways, because I use that inner smile all day, and I walk around the city. You can't believe the reactions I get with people. I just look at them and zap them with a smile, and they're like, and I don't even know them. And it's beautiful. And the ones who are more connected, I've never seen them, and I probably never see them again. And they just go like, it's this beautiful connection smile that you get, and that's like, wow, that was so beautiful. I did my job today, and I'll probably never see them again. Anyway, so I want to harness the energy. So we're going to harness some chi. Let's think, if you were on the earth here, you're harnessing some earth energy, the beautiful, magnificent earth energy, just drawing it up through the balls of your feet and through the palms of your hands. Breathe it in from the earth, and then midway we're going to breathe in the elemental energy of nature itself, trees, water, all the elements, rocks, mountains, and then finally palms up to galactic starry energy, to where home is, right? Take a deep breath. Keep the tongue on the roof of your palate. Let's clap. Mix your hands together. Like yummy, yummy, yummy. Yummy. Now, I want you to, we're all adults here, so I want you to put your hands on your genitals. Because we're going to use, not sexual energy, original force. In other words, that force is so powerful, everybody gets here through that, only through that window. So I don't know of anybody except if they're hybridized or super soldiers for the SSP or something like that. This is the way we all get here, right? Through this magnificent original force. So we're going to sweep the organs, the five major organs: heart, lungs, spleen, stomach, heart, stomach, lungs, liver, kidneys. And we're just kind of visually, so use your mind just to kind of intense, sexy energy, or what I call original force, right? Because that's what's going to keep us young. Is right? What they say, I want to be juicy, that new brand Juicy, it's printed on women's butts. It's like, well, there's some truth to that, right? The youth is created through the sexual energy, but not in the way that the West does it. Sorry. So, mixing, so I'm going to tell you, when I pass my genitals, I'm actually trying to create a little bit of arousal energy. I'm not turned on and dripping wet, juicy, but I want to create a little arousal to direct it. Remember, we want to incite the energy, direct it, and then we store it for longevity. So we're getting a little turn on. We're going to go to first, this is the creation cycle. We're going to start here, right under your left rib, and that's the organs of the earth. Stomach is the primary one, but we also have spleen and pancreas, very important organs, right, for basically digestion. I'm not going to get into it. It's so powerful and
Is
deep.
that also why it's like the three elements? It's kind of like
Yes, we're building.
In other words, you have all the organs, but you also have all the
elements.
Elements like your hormones, your juices,
All of it, yeah. And we're going to get into that, this creation cycle really based on nature this is the earth organs to start, and I'm not going to get into it, but I want you to take that section and intend it into those organs, the spleen, pancreas, and stomach. Take a deep breath. Now keep your tongue on the roof of the palate. Close your genital muscles or your Kegel muscles. Keep the tongue on the roof of the palate. Hold your breath for a second. Tap. Gently tap. 2, 3. Watch now. I'm going to take your hands, palms up, go underneath that left rib area. That's where those organs are. And we're going to make a sound with the fingertips. You're going to press gently into those organs and collapse your body a little bit. And the sound is like you're going to spit. Take a deep breath. I'm going to do some harmonization exercise. This is a little bit different than Manchak Chia's work. Just watch what I'm doing. Inhale, palms up. Exhale, fist down. Inhale, palm up. Exhale, fist down. Harmonize. Inhale, palms up. Exhale, fist down. Good. And then smile at your spleen. Let's keep your hands there to remind you where those organs are. And smile. I want you to use the inner smile to smile at those organs, those three organs, the spleen, pancreas, stomach, thanking them for the incredible mysteriousness of the functional abilities of these organs that we will never understand, and just starting to explore and understand the complexities and the magnificence of what God created in those organs and how they work synergistically with each other. Now, let's go one more time. And I'm going to tell you what now the 6 healing sounds are to, again, in the original traditions, where they would teach young adolescents this, is to remove negative energy and harness in positive energy. And those organs of the earth system, spleen, pancreas, stomach, tend to hold anxiety and uncertainty. A lot of that here in New York. So a lot of people have spleen digestive issues, right? This is all connected to digestion, earth. So we want to get rid of the uncertainty, the very low vibrational energy, and bring in the higher frequency energies of, there's both male and female. This is beautiful. Check this out. So the female aspects are openness and fairness, and the male aspects are groundedness and certainness. So we're bringing in both yin-yang organs, male and female, of those powerful emotions. So that, again, it's an intention, right? So let's start again. I'm going to gather your earth energy, elemental, tongue and roof of palate, galactic energy, tongue and roof of palate. Deep breath. Yummy. This is actually, a couple of reasons why we do this is to balance out left-right hemisphere, actually. And also there's something neurological about it that actually also balances the sympathetic nervous system, I think, also. And you ever see a kid when they get excited?
Yeah.
So there's like the positive element to this. So let's get to the original force and direct some of that arousal energy into those organs. We're going to go all around. Now watch, I also tend to go around my kidneys too. Now I've just done this lately. I've just added this. I kind of spiral into this. And then again, this is, if you notice, this is more spiraling, right? We want to start spiraling. So I'm kind of spiraling the kidneys into here. It just feels better when I can actually feel my kidneys. So let's go back to these organs here of the earth, spleen, stomach, pancreas. We want to, again, release the anxiety and uncertainty. We want to bring the higher emotions of openness, fairness on the yin side, and on the yang side, groundedness and stability. Take a deep breath. Tongue and roof of palate. Hold your floor if you can. Hold the tongue. Hold your breath for as much as you can. And tap those organs. I shake and tap. Shake and tap. 1, 2, 3. Take your fingers. Exhale. Relax. Take a deep breath. Let's harmonize. Palms up. Fist down. Inhale. Try to keep your tongue on the roof of your palate best you can, as much as you can. You really start feeling the difference. Takes time though. Good. Now let's go into just like a saddle stance, or horse stance. Horse stance is knees apart. It's an extension, or rather, it's this first form of what we call tree pose. We're just going to do saddle stance. It's what they use in martial arts a lot, right? Saddle stance, right? And just feel those organs and smile. Here's the inner smile again. We're going to take it a little deeper. Smile to the pancreas, stomach, and spleen, thanking them for the incredible job they do. And we're also looking, we usually do this 3 times for each organ system. So I would go a 3rd time, but because of time, we can't do it. But I'll do it 3 times, and I would actually smile to the organs, and then have them smile back. Literally, it's like, again, I'm from New York. Like, have my organs smile back. What the hell are you talking about, man? Come on. It's like, oh man, this is a beautiful general practice. This is this deep practice of appreciation to your organs, like understanding that, like when I started doing this, like, oh my God, I take my organs so for granted, and you're going to realize that if one of these 5 major organs go, you're done, right? You think of any liver, kidneys, lungs, heart, you're finished. If one goes, they all go. So they're intrinsically related. And it's such a beautiful practice how these ancients knew how to intrinsically include our emotions with these organs, right? So let's move on. We're going to go to the lungs next. I like talking less so you can have more of an experience. So I'll start talking less and less so you have more of a somatic experience. So I'm still including those earth organs, but now we're going into the metal energy. Earth makes metal. So this is a creation cycle, right? What comes out of the earth is metal. So lungs. Now the lungs hold grief and sadness. What do you get? Seasonal sadness, right? Right? So lungs hold grief and sadness. Think of anybody who's depressed. They breathe very shallowly or they're collapsed. So the lungs on the low vibe, they hold grief, sadness, and despair, depression. On the high value, they hold, check this out, courage, strength, and joy. Courage, strength, and joy. So I had a big problem here. I have a lot of grief in my family. I lost a lot of members of my family. Whatever this and that. And if I hold that link to the past, I'll go down. So these practices daily it's a residue release of my mind going back to mind, ego, history. Does anybody do landmark here? Okay. Anybody landmark forum? The landmark forum? No, that's it. I'm surprised. It's such a New York institution. You do landmark?
I've been
You've heard it, must have
for
heard.
years.
Okay, that's a great. Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a taste. Let's do one lung sound for the gang. Okay, so we mix some section energy. So intending that original force to our lungs, releasing the grief and sadness and despair. Never mind the story, we just want to get rid of the energy. Now the thing is this, I used to think, let me correct because I'm autocorrecting, because I used to think you have to get rid of it, but we can't anymore. Right? In other words, some grief is good, right? If somebody dies, I do want to cry and mourn, right? There's a healthy sense of mourning. There's a healthy sense of uncertainty, right? It's a tool that we use to get certain, right? So I should make clear that we don't actually want to get rid of these negative emotions. We're just mixing in higher emotions into them so that we can stay focused. Tony Robbins says, you can have sadness, fear, grief, and all that, but if you live there, that's a different story, right? It's a difference of having these feelings and living in those feelings. That's a different thing. And I understood what that is, being a former heroin addict. I thought that's who I have to be. That's what I know. That's who I am. But remember, behavior has to correlate with identity. Has to. So if I'm sick, if I have this disease, then I must be. So I could just say, well, my body's changing with some of the things I need to get conscious to. That's a different experience than I have, this X disease. It's like, it's just something that's happening to you. It's not that you are having, you know what I mean? It's a difference in the verbiage. That's why I recommend landmark, because it's understanding how to use language as a power. Yeah, she could, please talk to the young lady back here. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hillary Russo, who knows some information about landmark and the powerful work that is. I love to network with other organizations. Anyway, lungs. One more time. Sorry to detract. Now C, let's bring in the higher virtues of joy, courage, and strength. Deep breath, tongue on roof of palate. Close the floor. Hold your breath as best you can. Tap away, shake. 1, 2, 3. Watch me for a second. We're going to take our palms up, open the fingers. Fingers face each other, and we're going to push upward and say this S sound. And see that gray, cloudy depression energy leaving. Inhale the joy, courage, and strength. And exhale one more time. Any more cloudy depression, anxiety energy. Harmonize. Hold. Step into the silence, the beauty of the silence. Cultivate that deep silence inside of you, that place of peace in your heart. Thank you, everyone. Lights, please.
And now we're going to have a Q&A, if you will. And folks, again, if you will, raise your hand when you have a question, and then when he recognizes you, just turn up the volume of your voice so our microphone will pick you up. It will pick you up over there if you just talk loud.
Just want to check in. Does everyone need the fan? It's pretty cool in here.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You can turn it off.
Sure.
Okay.
Is that,
I feel like I'm in a
you good? Yeah, it's nice in here. Okay, so we're going to do a Q&A now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, guys, and hands. So who wants to ask the first question? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Why don't you say your first name and then the question?
My name's Justin, And I saw in the early part of the thing, it said burning down the house or something. I don't know, that just
Yeah.
really intrigued me. I'm
Yep.
curious if I could see that. Or
Oh yeah, sure. Let me see if I can find that for you.
It's right at the top of it, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah. Let me get that for you. That's just saying that the energy that we use, in terms of the sexual energy, right? Just like any other force could be used. Like if we use fire as a tool, it's a great tool for warming, eating, light. But if we use it destructively, it's the same with sexual energy. It's a fire, right? It's a powerful fire energy. But if we use it destructively, we cause havoc. And again, my analogies with this boys who go out like these, it's almost like a commonplace now. These young boys going out and machine gunning 20 people. It's like, okay, that's the new thing.
Another question? Okay, I'll have one.
Yeah.
Where does ego fit or not fit into this entire subject?
Nick, that's a great question. And again, I'm not an expert, but what I can say is, a healthy sense of ego is always important. I think, in any tradition that you look at, like there is a certain element of our ego. There's a healthy sense of ego and a destructive sense of ego. But what I found in my own experience is that as I got deeper into this work, again, I found that I'm starting to leave that personality, historic sense of who I am. In other words, that I'm getting older now, and I'm much older than people might think, is I'm seeing that death is a very real probability now. I'm over 50, and I'm seeing like, oh wow, I'm over 50. Death is, I'm not a...
I just turned 75.
Wow, you look great. Congratulations.
Clean living, guys.
Wow.
Clean living.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But
you know what the thing is crazy? Is that I don't feel, I don't know how to say this, but I don't feel like I'm that old at all. I don't even own the age of 75. I just feel like I'm in my 30s or something, and the best is yet to come, and I'm planning and looking forward to the future.
Great.
Right?
Great.
And I think that's got to be part of the reason that I'm feeling like I am.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I know some people, in fact, I had a reunion of my college, and that's a wild thing to have anyways, but you see some people that look like my grandfather, for God's sakes, and other people are vital and as alive and wonderful as I ever remember them, right? And it's the same class. So I think that your outlook, as you know, your outlook and your energy and how you feel about yourself and the world and other people play into that so much.
Yeah, that's just like basic. Yeah, we have to have a good, healthy sense of self. It's really, really important. Anybody else have any other questions?
Here we go.
Hi, Hal, you said you had trouble with relationships before. Do you find since studying this practice, you've been able to have better and more, your relationships,
oh my God,
personal ones have been better?
Yeah, what I'd like to say about that is, I had found a partner who was, I think you know her, Keela. Remember Keela Malat?
I can't.
Okay. Anyway, I had a woman who had actually, by accident, had a Kundalini activation. I don't know if you all know what that is, but it can be. It's almost like I'll put it in layman's terms. It's like putting like 40,000 watts into a 40 watt light bulb.
Wow.
And I just wanted to show. This woman, this is the woman who I experienced this work with, and
that's a great photo.
She just changed my life. She knew how to work with some of these energies, and I haven't seen. This is what happened because we both had the practices. We were able to go much, much deeper because I could hold my semen, and therefore give her deeper pleasure, at her request or not. So I could hold the container for the feminine as like the Shiva consciousness. I had to practice like a Shiva consciousness that no matter what came out of her, in other words, because a woman is so different energetically than a man, I would allow her to express every palette of emotion that came out of her. So deep healing came out of her, trauma, huge. I was making love to her once, and she was screaming like, my mother, she beat me. And it's like all this trauma was being, and it's like, oh shit, do I run? Oh shit, do I, it's like, no, practice the emptiness of, the practice of meditative practice of holding the space for the goddess to reveal herself. And what I literally saw, I could tell you this, Keela disappeared into her heart. And you know what came out? The goddess. This energy I've never experienced in my life. And I got like her Shaktipat, the blessing of once a man develops deep trust with a woman, which is rare to do. It's hard to do today, because we're not going to go there in the ego. But we surrendered to this practice. The practice would allow us to go deeper into the next level of trust and intimacy and test. Next level of trust and test. Test, love. We got so deep. What happened, though, was that inside that practice is what happened with us is that we got so deep that we were confronted. This is the main part you understand. We were confronted to the very point of where we didn't love ourselves. In other words, I couldn't take my partner any deeper to where she couldn't go because of these practices, because I could hold my ejaculation. So, the wave, again, this is based on Dan Winter's waves of implosion and gravity. So the waves converge. The energy of the exchange, the waves converge into unity. That literally, I can't explain what came out of her. Like, I've seen animals come out of her, like the weirdest shit, the darkest shit, and the most beautiful shit. I saw her little girl come out. I saw all the wounds come out. I saw like this magnificent, like angelic energy come out. It's just like, it was transformative. And it got deeper, but what happened was, we went so deep that we were confronted on the very parts that we didn't heal ourselves. And so we couldn't take each other anymore. As much as I loved her, anything else became codependent and destructive. And we actually became repulsive to each other. Every time we wanted to come together, it would be repulsed because it was the point where I said, this is where I don't love myself. I have self-hatred. I hate myself for doing this. I hate the world. I want to cause pain to others. And she said, you know what? You're fucked. I can't love you anymore. And I saw where she needed, I literally like to say, I fucked her back home. So let me finish this point. What I like to say is, she needed to go where she needed to go. She literally went back to Seattle. She hadn't seen her family in 10 years, and she's there now healing all the stuff that happened there. And I haven't talked to her since, but there's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't thank her for what she gave me. Not a day.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, Lorraine, please.
I haven't seen you in years, and I just want to say you look great.
Thanks.
Very good. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, you too, Lorraine. Good to see you. Yeah, and I got to say that people tell me, like, how old are you? And I said, I'm 58. They go, what? Like, they see me with my daughter. I'm not blowing my own horn. They see my daughter, and they go, is your girlfriend? It's like, my girlfriend's my daughter. And they go,
oh, that's great.
The last
That's
time
great.
I saw you was when we went to the 9/11 thing.
Right.
That's how long.
But I just want to say, for men here, young men particularly, or men who want to combat aging and get out of the porn addiction, because remember, for men, it's a different thing than for women. I'm sorry. I make a distinction between men and women. We're equal, but we're distinctly different. And I honor those differences. And for men, we tend to get distracted, go into avoidance for things that we can't handle. And it's not, guess who's telling me? They're telling me. So I listen to them now. And I knew it all along, but I was afraid to go out. But now I'm going out and teaching this to men. But you know what? Most men are just curious and interested. They're not committed. Commitment's a whole different thing. Hey, what's that thing you're doing? It's like, you're either doing it or you're not. That's it. It's like anything else.
Another question. Your first name, please?
Hi, Liliana. My question is, when you first started doing this, how long did it take for you to really see a difference or notice?
Yeah, my story real quickly was...
and also how every day you practice?
Yeah.
3 times a week?
Every day I have to.
You have to do it
Yeah,
every day?
because actually, in the words of David Data says, there's never an excuse of any kind not to practice. So whether if it's a meditation or physical practice, whatever, or my mindfulness, because I watch when my ego wants to go right into the victim mode. It's still here, like I'm 58. This happened when I was 20, but it often goes into like, fuck dad and their food, and it's like, oh man, come on, just self-love, love yourself, stop judging, and I have to get out of the victim and go back to my practice. So literally, because we're so powerful, and once a man builds that energy, you literally start to see holographically your influence on people becomes greater. So the responsibility becomes greater. Even the littlest thought, no criticism, no judgment of people, nothing like that. You just create a space for people for their own possibility. I literally have to, as like a Shiva practice, it's like, wow, how about if I could create a space for everybody like that?
So how long did it take, though, for you to really
Yeah, I started about 12 years ago, and I started because I was having sex with my wife, and I would ejaculate, and I'd be exhausted. And I'd drink coffee, and I'd be more exhausted. I'd be nervous and exhausted. And one day I fell asleep at the wheel of the car, and almost like from ejaculating so much. And I said, I knew that's because I'm ejaculating. I'm exhausted, and I said, that's it. I got to learn. And I knew, something. It's like a calling. You hear if you really stop shut and stop. You can hear what she's saying. The goddess will whisper into our ears, but we have to get out of our shit. We have to choose free will. You have to say, I'm not buying into my own shit anymore. My own stories, reasons, and excuses. We either have stories, reasons, and excuses, or we have possibility. So it took me about 12 years just to master the sexual energy. And then my teacher said, oh, no, you learn the last thing first. You got to learn everything else now. I said, well, I don't care about that. I just want to be a good lover. It's like, no, you got to learn all the hard, because I needed to learn self-reflection and, deep self-reflection of those parts that I hated within myself. I could look good. That's easy for me to do. But it's the insides. And this is an inner Turian practice, a deep internal reflective practice.
How old was you doing
27.
Alexander, I can honestly tell you that this time has flown by. Guys in the room, can you please say thank you to Alexander? On our dnny.info website, we're going to give you Alexander's information and his website, and also a way of contacting him if you have any questions. It has been an extraordinary, really, truly an extraordinary program, and we can't thank you enough, my friend. Whoa, guys, that was a pro.